Hello students. Today I'm going to do a poem called The Patriot by Robert Browning. I hope by this time you have seen all the other videos of the prose stories like The Little Match Girl, My Greatest Olympic Prize, and the poems The 9 Gold Medals and Abu Ben Adam. Please go through the textbook thoroughly, children, and please check in the description box if I have sent any PDF file regarding the notes for workbook. Shall we start, children? So, this poem is written by Robert Browning. Let us find out more about who Robert Browning is. I hope you can see the picture there of Robert Browning. Robert Browning was a famous poet of the Victorian age. This poem is written in the form of a dramatic monologue where a man who is being led to the gallows is recounting his tale. What is a dramatic monologue? This poem is a dramatic monologue. In a dramatic monologue, a single person who is not the poet utters the speech in a specific situation that makes up the whole of the poem. The poet speaks through the medium of an imagined character and achieves the same objectivity that characterizes a poem. Then, what is this poem about? Let me give you a brief introduction to this poem. Robert Browning's The Patriot is a reflection of the rapidity with which a hero's fortune can be changed. It is a story of reward or punishment meted out to the speaker of the poem within 1 year for his services. Meted out means given punishment, dispensed with punishment. The patriot who was welcomed with roses a year ago by the public is going to be executed like a criminal now. The poem, as read by some critics, is a satire on the fickleness of the public opinion. What do you mean by satire? It's criticizing people's stupidity or vices, VICES. And what do you mean by fickleness? The changeability, especially as regards to one's loyalties or affections. So this poem is basically a satire on fickleness of the public opinion. How quickly they change their opinion. One day they hero worship and next day they don't even look at that hero. This is what this poem is about. If you look into your textbook on page number 31, they have given a brief synopsis of this poem. Let me read it out for you. The speaker recalls that exactly a year ago, he had been led down this very street with crowds of people cheering him and scattering roses in his path. He was a hero being welcomed by his adoring fans. A year later, he has been tried, convicted, and is being led away to be put to death. How short is public adulation and memory, and how fickle is praise and glory. A year ago, roses and fame. Today, he's left with nothing but shame and death. A grim reminder that life is uncertain. Yet, the poem ends on a note of optimism. Browning's own philosophy that God's in his heaven and all's right with the world is the note on which the poem closes. The patriot believes that it is God who will reward him according to his true merit. Now, let us go to the poem, children. I hope you have the textbook with you. Page number 32. The Patriot. First of all, before I start the poem, what is the meaning of the patriot? A patriot. Patriot is a person who loves and supports his country and is ready to fight for it. That is the meaning of a patriot. Here, the speaker of the poem is a patriot. Let us find out. So it is a first person narration. Let us find out what the patriot has to say. It was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway. The church spires flamed, such flags they had. A year ago, on this very day. So, what is he talking about? Here, the poet, the narrator, the speaker, he's reminiscing about a day 1 year back. What happened on the same day 1 year back? So maybe he has achieved something. He has won laurels for his country. He's a great public figure. He has achieved something for his nation, and he's coming back to his town. And all the people of the town have gathered to give him a warm welcome. So how do they welcome? How did the people welcome him? It was roses, roses all the way. People were showering him with flowers, with roses. All the whole path was festooned with flowers, and also roses were with, along with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. What do you mean by myrtle, children? Myrtle, if you can see the picture here, roses, okay, and this is myrtle. Myrtle, a type of small tree that has sweet smelling white or pink flowers and black berries. I hope you can see this picture. So what did the people do? How did they show their affection? What did the people do? They showered roses. They showered him with myrtles all his way. They showed their devotion. They showed their love and affection. Actually, roses also symbolizes people's love and affection towards the poet. It suggests people's complete devotion. So the people have gathered on either side of the road. They are showering him. His path is laden with flowers. The whole city is decorated. It is festooned with flowers. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway. The church spires flamed. Such flags they had a year ago on this very day. People, they just want to have a glimpse of the Patriot. So on either side of it is jam-packed. So what do the people do? They climb the rooftops. They're standing on the terrace. There is no place anywhere. Did you identify the figure of speech in this line, children? The house roofs seem to heave and sway. Here, the roofs of the houses have been given the human characteristics of heaving and swaying. This has been done to refer to the crowd on the roofs and their frenzy on seeing the Patriot, which is causing them to clamber over each other and give the impression of swaying. I remember such a scene. During one of the Dasara processions I had witnessed in Mysore. The people had climbed the rooftops wherever one could see people on trees, on the terrace. This scene is similar to that. People just want to have a glimpse of him from wherever vantage point they can get. They're standing and watching him. So here the roof, it is as if the rooftops can't bear the weight of the crowd. It seems to heave and stay, move as if it can't bear the weight of the people. The people are watching him. They are showering him with roses and myrtles, and the rooftops can't bear. It seems to heave and sway. The church spires, I hope that you can see it here. The church spires, this is the spire. The church spires flamed. Such flags they had. How can the church spire flame, children? What do you mean by a spire? A spire is a tapering conical or pyramidal structure on the top of a building, often a skyscraper or a church tower. How can a spire flame? Here, what have the people done? They have decorated with red flags. The whole city is decorated. Wherever one can see, flags are there. So because the spire is decorated with red flags, it seems as if the spire is on flame. When did all this happen, children? A year ago on this very day. All this happened 1 year back on the same day. I hope you have understood, children. Let me go to the next stanza. The air broke into a mist with bells. The old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. Had I said, good folk, mere noise ripples, but give me your sun from yonder skies, they had answered. And afterward, what else? So the whole atmosphere, the air was filled with the cheerful sound of bells. What do you mean by mist, children? Droplets of water suspended in air. See, when you have heavy rainfall, when you try to close the windows, what do you find? The water droplets of the rain hitting your face. In the same way, what is happening here? The whole atmosphere, the air is filled with the cheerful sound of the church bell. People are tolling the bell to show their appreciation, to show their love and regard. It is a jubilation time for them to welcome their hero who has returned after achieving something. We don't know actually what he has achieved, what he has done. He might be a great public figure returning after achieving laurels for his country. So the people are welcoming him by tolling the bells of the church. The old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. Imagine the people are in such a frenzy, crying aloud so loud, making so much of noise that the old walls of the house seem to shake. Just imagine, okay, when a heavy vehicle goes on the road, what happens to your windows? They seem to vibrate, shake. In the same way, what has happened here? Because of the noise, frenzy of the crowd, the cries of the crowd, it seems as if the old rocks are shaking. Had I said, good folk, mere noise ripples. If he had, the patriot is telling now, the speaker is telling, what is he telling? If he had asked the people, had he said, good folk, whom does it refer to? The people who have gathered there to welcome him. Had he said, people, this mere just noise ripples, but give me a sun from yonder skies. If he had asked even for the sun over there, yonder, over there, they would have answered, and afterward, what else? Please check for the figure of speech in this line, children. They had answered, and afterward, what else? This is a figure of speech called hyperbole. What do you mean by hyperbole? It refers to exaggerated statements not to be taken literally. The patriot, when asked the crowd to give him the sun, they answer, and afterward, what else? It is as if they would literally bring the sun for him at that moment. Thus, this is a hyperbolic expression. But they are so carried away by the moment. In the heat of the moment, they would have obliged the patriot anything that he wanted, not even making sense whether they can get the sun for him. And why is the patriot asking for the sun? Actually, sun symbolizes glory, power, and immortality. He asked for the sun as it is the ultimate symbol of power. So that is what he is after. Let us find out what happens in the next stanza. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun to give it my loving friends to keep. Not man could do, have I left undone. And you see my harvest, what I reap, this very day. Now a year is run. Now, suddenly, first two paragraphs, it was what happened 1 year ago on the same day. Now it comes to the present. Now, he is regretting. There is a note of regret in his voice now. Alack. Alack, it's an expression of sorrow or regret. It was I who leaped at the sun. He thinks that he has made some mistake. It was he who leaped at the sun. Sun refers to leaped refers to jumped. So he went after something which led to his downfall. To give it my loving friends to keep. He wanted to achieve something for his nation that led to his downfall. Maybe it hints to the story of Daedalus and Icarus. It refers to the Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, Daedalus was a skillful architect, craftsman, and artist, and was seen as a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, and power. He was the father of Icarus. Daedalus invented and built the labyrinth, a maze, a complicated, irregular network of passages or paths in which it is difficult to find one's way. He built the maze for whom? For King Minos of Crete. But shortly after finishing it, King Minos had Daedalus imprisoned within the labyrinth. He and his son Icarus devised a plan to escape by using wings made of wax that Daedalus had invented. They escaped, but sadly, Icarus did not heed his father's warnings. He was so carried away by his flight, by the freedom that he had. He went near the sun. And what happened? The wax melted, and Icarus fell to his death. So what is the link to this poem here, children? So what is he trying to tell here? Here the narrator is telling, okay, it is it is a mythical reference to Icarus. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun. It tells us that perhaps the speaker was over ambitious. What led him towards his downfall was his vaulting ambition. It can be deduced that the speaker took a step too far, and it was his error that led him to cross the boundaries and consequently lose popularity. I hope you can see the picture of Icarus and Daedalus. Actually, I came across this story. If you are followers of Percy Jackson stories, this story is also there, children. When you have time, please read this. So now what has happened? So now he has lost popularity, and you see my harvest, what I reap. This very day, now a year is run. So what has happened in the gap of just 1 year? Now, for all his action, this is the consequence that is given to him for his action. Harvest here refers to his deeds or action, and a reap here refers to the consequence that is given to him. So this is how he is rewarded for all his actions by the world. This very day, now a year is run. So now whole 1 year has elapsed. All these things happened 1 year back. Now let us see what happens. Now it becomes the present tense. First two paragraphs, past tense. Please let me explain to you the contrast, how he was welcomed 1 year back, and now how the people show their disrespect to him. Let us go to the next stanza. There's nobody on the housetops now, just a palsied few at the windows set, for the best of the sight is all allow. At the shambles gate, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot, I trow. So what has happened now? The same day, after 1 year, he's walking on the same road, but see the image. 1 year back, people had thronged on either side of the road. People had climbed the rooftops to just have a glimpse of him. They were showering him with rose petals. But today, 1 year back, 1 year later, but on the very same day, how has the scene changed? When he's walking on the same road, there's nobody on the housetops now. Nobody wants to have a glimpse of him. Just a palsied few at the window set. Only a few people who have been afflicted with palsy, only they are there in the house. They're sitting near the windows and watching him. What do you mean by palsy, children? Affected with palsy, that is a medical condition that makes one's body or part of a body to shake uncontrollably. So those people who can't climb, or those who cannot, where are the other? You might be wondering then, where are the other people then? Yes, they are, for the best sight of the sight is all allowed at the shambles gate. Yes, all the people are near the shambles gate. What is the shambles gate, children? A place where people would gather together to watch public hangings. Yes, during those days, a traitor was publicly hanged. So now where are the people? He guesses that everyone is waiting at the shambles gate, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot, I trow. What do you mean by scaffold? I hope you can see the picture here. Scaffold is a platform or structure on which criminals are punished by being hanged or beheaded. So everyone has gathered at the very foot of the scaffold. Why? To have the best sight. They want to have a perfect point. They want to have the best place, vantage point, where they can see the hanging of the Patriot very clearly. Earlier, see children, the contrast. In the first paragraph, they had climbed the rooftops to have a better glimpse of him. Now the same people have gathered near the shambles gate at the very foot of the scaffold, because everyone agrees, believes that that is the best place to have a good view of his hanging. The same people who showered petals on him, who cried, shouted, encouraged him, the same people now are standing at the scaffold's foot to have a better view of his hanging. I hope you have understood this paragraph, children. Shall we move to the next stanza now? I go in the rain and more than needs. A rope cuts both my wrists behind, and I think by the feet, my forehead bleeds. For they fling, whoever has a mind, stones at me for my years' misdeeds. So, what is happening now? How is the mood now? Now it is raining. He's walking in the same path that he walked 1 year back on the same day. But today, there is no crowd watching him walking towards the shambles gate. Everyone is already there, waiting eagerly to see his hanging. It's raining heavily. So here, the rain here is symbolic of a number of things. The Patriot gets wet by the rain, losing his dignity. Also, it can be viewed that the rain washes him clean, representing his innocence. The rain also works to create a tense atmosphere. It adds to the depressed mood. Okay, so he's walking in the rain. And how is he being taken to the shambles gate? Not like a hero. His hands are tied behind his back. They have tied his wrist so tightly that it is bleeding. And he also feels that, okay, his forehead is bleeding. Why does he think he might be bleeding? Because he cannot feel it, because his hands are tied. And how come his forehead is bleeding? For they fling. They refer to the same good folk, the people mentioned in the second paragraph. They are throwing, fling. What are they doing? The same people who showered him with petals, today they fling. What? Stones at him. They're throwing stones at him. Whoever has a mind, okay, these people who want to show their disrespect to him, who want to show their anger at him, disappointment at his behavior, they all throw stones at him for his misdeeds. Misdeeds, what do misdeeds here refer to? What they perceive as his wrong action against the nation. What you have to understand here, children, is there are two perceptions here. According to the narrator here, he had done everything. I missed one line in third paragraph. Not man could do, have I left undone. So he had done everything, whatever he could do for his nation, for his people, whatever was possible for a man, he had done everything. And that is the harvest he is reaping. But people didn't understand what he did. They think it was wrong of him to do. So today they're taking him for that supposed misdeed to be hanged. So here, what are they doing now? So according to the Patriot, the speaker, he has done everything. In his perception, in his understanding, he has done everything a man could do for his people. But the same people, in their understanding, it was wrong of him. What was wrong of him? Because maybe it was his over ambition that has led to his present condition of being hanged to death. So here, the narrator, he regrets that a year's misdeeds, his supposed misdeeds, has erased all the memories of his good deeds from the mind of the common people. So he walks on the same route in the rain, people jeering him, people waiting eagerly near the shambles gate, nobody here to welcome him on the road. Let us find out what happens next. Thus I entered, and thus I go. In such triumphs, people have dropped down dead, paid by the world. What dost thou owe me? God might question. Now instead, it is God shall repay. I am safer so. So 1 year back, he entered, he made a grand entry on the same road, the same day 1 year back, and on the same road he is walking now. He is making an exit from this world. It is this is similar to this entry of the Patriot, echoes that of the Christ into Jerusalem, and is followed by a small reversal of public acclaim into disgrace and death. It's the same road he made an entry with grandeur. Today on the same road he is making his exit. Thus I entered, and thus I go. In such triumphs, people have dropped down dead. Sometimes people in that moment of greatest glory drop down dead. He feels that his moment has come. Paid by the world. This is how he has been repaid by the world, rewarded by the world. How? By his public hanging. What does thou owe me? God might question. When he is dead, God might ask him if he owes anything to God. He doesn't owe anything to God because he has already paid in the world through his death. Now instead, it is God shall repay. Instead, now he feels that God should reward him for all whatever he has achieved on this earth. The people might not have recognized his work, but he has firm faith in God that God will definitely reward him. Even though the world thinks that the Patriot has done something wrong, he knows he has done everything he could. Death is not the end. He hopes that since he did not receive the reward for the work he had done in this world, he will be rewarded by God. See, he feels that he will be safer with God than in this world. And it doesn't end on a negative note. See, death, according to him, death is not the end. He feels life begins after death with God to him. Thus, the poem reflects Browning's faith in God. What was his faith in God? God is in his heaven and all is well with the world. He might die, but still he is happy that he will be safer in God's world, in heaven, because he did not get the due recognition in this world. But he hopes that God will reward him suitably, and also he feels safer with God. Death is not the end. Children, I hope you have understood the poem. Actually, I had left out 2 lines in 3rd paragraph. I have completed in while doing the 5th paragraph. So let us go to the next slide, children. So what are the themes of this poem, children? It is public fickleness, rise and fall of glory, and faith in God. I have already given you the meaning of fickleness. Robert Browning's The Patriot is, as seen by some critics, is a harsh and critical satire on the public's fickle attitude, the changing attitude or the changing affection, loyalties of people. So it is a satire, criticism on the public's fickle attitude. The poem portrays that how love, respect, and honor given to someone is momentary and is subjected to erratic changes. The center of the poem is a patriot who is in a critical situation. Only a year ago, he was acknowledged as godlike by the public. He was given a hero's welcome on his arrival in the town. But today, he's being taken to the scaffold to be executed. Public's fickleness can be observed with the help of contrasting images that the poet has used. The same public who threw roses and myrtle on his way a year ago now makes him bleed by throwing stones at him. Earlier, to welcome the patriot, the house roof seemed to heave and sway, but it is no longer the same. This crowd who would promise him anything a year ago is now taking him towards his end. Let us go to the second theme, rise and fall of glory. The poem depicts the theme of sudden rise and fall of glory of man. Within a span of 1 year, the patriot experiences both love and lovelessness. 1 year ago, he was welcomed by the public with roses and myrtles. However, the same public hurled stones at him after a year. This shows his downfall from a beloved hero to a condemned traitor. It is also suggested by the mythical reference to Icarus in Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun. It tells us that perhaps the speaker was overambitious. What led him towards his downfall was his vaulting ambition. It can be deduced that the speaker took a step too far, and it was his error that led him to cross the boundaries and consequently lose popularity. The third theme, faith in God. Browning's message in the poem is one of faith in God and optimism. He uses the story of Icarus to describe the ambition of a man in stanza 3. This gives the moral of the story, that is, not to become too ambitious like Icarus. The patriot feels that he carried out everything he could, not man could do, have I left undone. The poem ends with the line, it's God shall repay, I'm safer so. Even though the world thinks that the patriot has done something wrong, he knows he has done everything he could. Death is not the end. He hopes that since he did not receive the reward for the work he had done in this world, he will be rewarded by God. Thus, the poem reflects Browning's faith in God. God is in his heaven and all is well with the world. Please go through the workbook, children, page number 120, 121, 122, 123. See, this poem is full of contrast. Okay, from first two paragraphs, stanzas, and then what happens later. It comes in page number 123. The poem uses a series of contrasting images to dwell on the speaker's majestic past and unheroic present. The first stanza gives us the image of roses on the patriot's way, which later changes to flinging of stones at him. Browning decides to open on this image of roses because it connotes the love and honor that the patriot received from the public. The idea of roses all the way suggests public's complete devotion for him, which thus acts as an antithesis for him being hit by stones later in the poem. To represent the glory-filled past, the poet puts forward the image of house roofs which seem to heave and sway, but in a year, things have changed as there's nobody on the housetops now. The heaving and swaying motion creates an image of overcrowding which signifies the speaker's importance. It tells us that the patriot is a beloved hero who later on becomes a condemned traitor. The first stanza mentions the church spires being decorated with flags, whereas in the fourth stanza, the speaker walks down the scaffold's foot. Another important contrast is drawn by using images from nature. When the speaker is at the height of his glory, he asks for sun from the sky, and when he has lost all of it, he walks in the rain towards his demise. The second stanza adds to the image of endless love that the speaker received from the public. On his asking for the sun, the crowd answered. And afterward, what else? This voice of the public is used to indicate that the speaker is not hallucinating or exaggerating, and thus his fall from glory becomes more tragic when he goes in the rain. Thus, the use of contrast is very basic to the style of the poem. Irony. Narrated in the first person account, the poem has an ironic tone. The irony in the poem is that the people who had in the beginning welcomed the patriot with flowers were the ones who hurled stones at him after a year. The poem begins with a retrospective tone, since the first two stanzas are in the past tense. The poet reflects back upon the days when he was welcomed with roses. Then there is a tension in the narration when the poet mentions the now empty rooftops. The patriot's tone becomes laced with agony when he notes how the people who apparently were ready to worship him are now cheering at his execution. The poem ends on an optimistic note as the patriot believes that God truly knows who is moral or immoral, and he will do justice to him after his death. Children, you should notice that nowhere in the poem do we know what is the mistake or the crime committed, misdeed crime committed by the patriot for which he is being hanged. It is left to the people who read the poem to draw their own conclusion what he might have committed. But according to the patriot, he is innocent. Please go through page number 124 and 125 regarding ambiguity in the poem and also the innocent depiction of the speaker. Students, I hope that you have understood the poem. So please go through the textbook thoroughly once again, listen to the explanation once again, and what are the questions that you might expect? Contrast, okay, how he is welcomed 1 year back on the same day, and what is the reception now 1 year later, and how does, on what note the poem ends. And please keep checking the description box, children. I will add the notes, check for it. See you in the next class.